Okay, so here we are once again. My colleague and good friend Hatum Tash has been arrested and thrown out of Hyde Park, thrown out of Speaker's Corner for confronting and getting Muslims upset. This time, they got upset not because she held up a Quran with holes in it like happened last September, referring to the whole problem with holes in the narrative, the famous quote by Dr. Yasir Qadi back on June the 9th of last year. That wasn't the reason this time. This time it was because of a t-shirt she was wearing, which was a question concerning why or whether we can have freedom of speech. And here is the picture. Take a look at the picture. This is the original picture that has been all over the internet. It's a picture of Muhammad wailing and screaming, and you can see the heads on the ground. He has a big sword. And the original picture, he says, "Mama, he hurt my feeling," and he's pointing to a pen. With all the heads there on the ground, blood everywhere. What Hatum has done is she's taken that picture and reimposed another phrase, and this is the phrase she puts in there. "I'm so exceptionally offended by this bigot for drawing me." That's the cartoon that she had emblazoned on a t-shirt that she wore to Speaker's Corner. Now, you're going to see, and I'm going to show you snippets. It's too long, and if you go up on Hatum's site, DCCI, you can see the whole 45 minutes of what happened after the Muslims started confronting her. I'm just going to show you little snippets so you get the idea of what's going on here, and then I'm going to come to some conclusions, because I think we need to come to conclusions about this. What in the world is going on? But before we begin, remember where we're at. Remember where we're at. This is Speaker's Corner. This is not on the streets of London. This is not at a high street. This is not at a book table. This is not anywhere else. It is Speaker's Corner. And what is the purpose of Speaker's Corner? Speaker's Corner is considered to be the bastion of freedom of speech anywhere in the world. This is the one place you can say anything you want. You can wear anything you want. And even if it is offensive, in fact, I would suggest this is the only place left in Britain where you can say and wear things that are offensive. You can't do it anywhere else. This is our last bastion. And what I am concerned about is what happened 2 days ago at Speaker's Corner. I used to go down to Speaker's Corner for 25 years. This is where I learned my craft. This is where I tested all my material. And I had to take the most offensive things down there because it was only there that I could ask questions that I can't ask anywhere else. I could no longer ask these kind of questions or introduce Muslims to this kind of material on university campuses. I could not do it on the streets anymore. You cannot do it on television or radio, but you can at Speaker's Corner. This is the one last place on earth where we are able and must be able to have freedom of speech, freedom of opinion, and the ability to say what will offend the other, as we get offended all the time. And we have used Speaker's Corner as a place to defend that which is offensive. But let's look and see what happened. So here, let's start with the snippet. And this is what I want to do. Rather than give you the beginning of what happened, I want to show you the end of how the police explain what they finally did, how they explained what happened. I just want you to listen to what this police says. The man who is questioning him is one of the three that actually confronted Hatum from the very beginning. So the very man that actually started this confrontation against Hatum is now trying to get from the police, why is it she was arrested? Take a look and see what the police said.
She just got arrested.
Yeah.
What did she do?
Yeah, but she's probably been arrested.
For what? She's been arrested, bro.
She's been arrested multiple times.
For what?
Prevent breach of the peace public.
Yeah.
It's not the first time. 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 I think last time actually she was assaulted.
Okay, explain to me that law. Breach of the peace.
So can I try? Did someone literally just get arrested just
The
now?
girl,
Then listen, you won't give this to her. Easy.
So right now,
go and give that to her.
No, but she can die. Huh? Who got arrested?
The lady who was...
Explain to me that law.
what law?
Breach of the peace.
Breach of the peace. If
What is
I say, what team do you support?
That's what Chelsea.
Right,
Nobody
okay.
laughed.
So, right, I'm a Tottenham fan, right? So, imagine you was in the Tottenham end, yeah, and you were screaming out Chelsea, Chelsea, and then whatever, to prevent you from breaking that peace. So everyone's sitting there quietly, like they do in Tottenham, yeah, praying that we're going to score. If you was up there going Chelsea, Chelsea, we can take you away from that situation.
Fair enough.
Okay, all right. And what can happen then is we can sort of sit there and say, is there any other charges?
What makes her wearing that shirt a breach of the peace? Because
Well, she
with her
was-
being
no,
wearing that shirt,
no,
she made us act in that way, right?
That caused the trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we've done is we've arrested her under the Breach of the Peace Act so that we can get her away from here.
So that means you as a human being recognise that wearing a depiction of the Prophet Muhammad is a breach of the peace.
No.
It's not a breach of the peace.
No,
So she was just wrongfully arrested.
No, you're jumping the gun. I'm trying to explain, but you're jumping the gun. What I'm trying to say is, she was here and causing trouble. There's one of her and 50 odd of you. So what we do is we take her from the situation. If you're frying a pan of hot oil in your house, right, and it starts burning, what do you do?
Take it off the fire.
You take it off the fire.
Exactly.
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what we've done.
Appreciate that, man.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Did that sort of matter? It's not a criminal offence.
Okay. So you heard the police. This is after everything has happened. This is after she has been arrested. She's been taken away. The man who is asking the police, and it's interesting because this police is the first one on the scene, and this is the man that started the whole fracas. So the two that are really responsible, both for protecting and taking away Hatum, the police that is there, is the one that's answering the man who was part of three of them who actually confronted her from the very beginning. And one of them, we don't have that on film, exposed himself, showed his genitals to Hatum to mock her. Now, notice what the police said. So, he was trying to define why they arrested. And the man who started the whole thing, it was he that, you will see as we're going to get into it, he is the one that's confronting Hatum, is in her face, calling her names, all this rest. He is the one that wants to know why is she arrested. And notice what the police says. Basically, to get her out of the situation because she is the one causing the problem here. And he gave the example of Chelsea versus Tottenham. For those of you who don't know, those are two football teams. I'm a Chelsea supporter, so is the guy that asked the question. And so he said, okay, let's take two football teams, soccer for those of you who are in America. As you know, in Britain, the soccer teams are very volatile, and there's always punch-ups. Well, not always, but many times there are punch-ups whenever they have the two teams, fans get together. And so what they do in Britain, they have the fans of Chelsea sit on one side of the stadium and the fans of Tottenham sit on the other side. And it doesn't matter what two teams are, they always separate the two teams. That's a real problem in Britain. So you have one area is for Tottenham, the other area is for Chelsea. He's giving the example. And if a Chelsea supporter goes and sits with the Tottenham supporters and starts yelling for Chelsea, what's going to happen to him? He's going to get beat up. So they make it illegal for them to sit where the Tottenham is. And that basically saying, that's what we did here. We were making sure that we got out of the place that you would have been upset with. Hold on to that. I'm going to show you the significance of that. You already I can see you smiling. I can see you already. The gear's starting to go because you can see if that's the example he's giving for what they did here. What's the repercussions? What's the significance? We're going to get to that in the conclusion. So the second example he gave was a pan of oil on a fire. What do you do if the pan starts to burn? You get it off the fire, right? So you get it away from the fire. And that's why they arrested her and took her away. Perfectly logical. I understand that. Except, do you see what's in his mind? Are you beginning to understand how the police then looks at Speaker's Corner? And are you beginning to understand what the Muslim now is going to take away with these two examples? Hold on to that. We'll come back to that. I now want to go and I want to start with the very beginning because this is how it all began. And it began really with three Muslims who were upset with that picture that she had on a t-shirt there at the corner. Here is a picture of her with a t-shirt. It's hard to read what it says there, but this is what it says. It used to say, Mama, he hurt my feelings. That's the original picture that she took. She changed it to, I'm so exceptionally offended by this bigot for drawing me. And that's what she has on her t-shirt. Watch and see how these Muslims deal with that picture that she is wearing.
Have you heard that?
Of course, Muhammad is his
Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you sick? So you what? So fuck off, fuck you, my man. Suck your mouth. Hey, move your hand out of my personal space, man. This is a verbal corner, but we can verbalize all we want in it, man. Don't be touching and doing that like that. Just listen, yeah. Look, have you heard of what happened in France? What happened in France when this happened? What happened in France?
Have you heard?
What happened in France when this happened?
Brother,
What happened in France when this happened? What happened in France? Do you guys not learn?
so what?
And then you call us terrorists. What happened in France when this happened?
What happened with them? Where is this problem?
You guys don't learn?
Why do you have a problem with
Which country you're from?
This is okay? You think this is okay what you're doing?
Is it
Just
okay?
because, hold on, just because
Is
the
it
Christian
okay
minority
that
has
one
managed to
of the
divorce
guys of
themselves
the-
from how beautiful their religion is. You guys take the piss out of your queen. You take the piss out of Jesus. You draw him. We don't want to do that. We respect our
You are
kings and queens
insulting-
and our prophets.
you are insulting
Why do you
me
have to be
and
the one out of
insulting
everyone
my
else to do the
religion and
drawing?
insulting my God.
I don't get it, bro. Do you want to say anything, bro? One second.
Do you think
Fuck your mom.
do you think like you
Fuck
can...
your
My name
mom.
is Yusuf, bro. I'm a
Fuck
Jordanian
your
international.
mom.
Go on.
Fuck your mom.
Yeah.
يا ابن الشرموطة يا ابن الشرموطة لعنة الله وعليك 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 لعنة الله وعليك
I'm not your mom.
You haven't read it?
Seems like you got some feelings.
Tell me about it. He ain't read it.
You're a disrespectful bitch. That's what
أمي قتلك أنا
Listen, I challenge you, go to France. Go to France and wear that. I challenge you, go to France and wear that.
What do you think you can challenge?
Go to France and wear that.
I'm wearing
Walk down the Champs-Élysées wearing that shirt.
Here. That's not your business.
Say no more. Come
It's
on.
not your business.
Get your camera out of my face, man. Get your camera out of my face. Get your camera out of my face. How do you stand next to a person like this? What are you guys, man? What are you guys? If you care too much about your blood, we don't care about our blood. We'll eat you guys alive, bruv. I swear to God the day will come. On my mother's life, bruv. Allah will eat you guys alive, bruv. You know what it is, yeah? I swear, if you was on fire, I wouldn't piss on you to put you out. Wallahi al-Azim, bro. Too much. It's too much, man. When was the last time you got some dick? You need to go get laid, man. You're too wound up.
Talk. Your words don't mean nothing. You're a fucking slag. Put your fucking hand up. Look at your protecting. Look at her t-shirt. And tell me why you're protecting her. Tell me why you're protecting her. Put your fucking hand up, bro. You're fucking alright.
I have not seen her for a year.
I don't give a fuck who you've seen. I've just seen her. Look at her t-shirt. Look at her t-shirt. Look at her t-shirt. No, bro. Look at her protecting. Look at her protecting. No, fuck it, bro. Look at her protecting, bro. Look at her shirt.
Well, rather interesting, as you saw there. It was fascinating because the protagonist, this Muslim on the right with a little blue face mask, was the one that he was using foul language. So was his partner using very foul language. And David, who is a friend of ours and who is one of the team, said, you don't use this kind of language at Speaker's Corner. And his response was, we can verbalize, this is Speaker's Corner, we can verbalize whatever we want. So we can say anything we want, but she cannot. Can you see the irony of that? We can say anything we want. This is Speaker's Corner, but she cannot wear that shirt, which is saying something we don't want her to say. Isn't it interesting? They can say anything. And listen to the foul language he was using against her. He went, and then he started giving some threats about, look and see what happened in France. Haven't you learned? Haven't you learned yet? That to me is a direct threat. In other words, if you still haven't learned your lesson, you still haven't learned your lesson from what happened in France, are you not going to learn your lesson? This is what will happen to you. This is what will happen to you, what happened in France. And then he tried to say, see if you could do this at Champs-Élysées. That's the main street there, shopping street there in Paris. See if you can wear a t-shirt like this. But see, this is the Champs-Élysées. He just got done saying, this is Speaker's Corner. Does he not see the contradiction in what he's trying to get across? And maybe it's because of his emotions, he's not thinking it through. He has all the right to say anything he wants, but she doesn't have the right. And because this is Speaker's Corner, you have the right. So he gets that point that this is the one place you can do it, but she cannot wear that shirt. I hope the irony is not lost on you. Because this started coming and getting very heated, the police that come. Right at the end of the clip, you see the police coming in. That's the police that he's going to be talking to at the very end. Now, I'm going to show you a bits and pieces because this went on for about 30 minutes. There's too much there to put on. But look and see what happened once the police showed up. And this tends to happen all the time. Once the police then show up, everybody just comes from everywhere. And all the Muslims, like a magnet, they were waiting for this. And I don't think the police realize this, but the police become a magnet for the Muslims. And the Muslims are playing them. See if you can pick it up. I don't want to show you all of the segment. It'll just take too long. But watch and see what happens there. And look and see how it just inflates and grows. And the pushing and shoving starts. And then, of course, more police have to come, as you're going to see. And this is exactly how the Muslims play it. They do this all the time. Listen, I was for 25 years at Speaker's Corner. I know how the Muslims work. They love it when the police show up because then they can go right to the limit and say whatever they want, and they know the police will be cowed. The police will be cowed. But notice who the police point the blame on. Notice who they want to leave the corner. Notice how they feel this can be shut down and this can be alleviated. This is the easy way out for them. See if you can pick it up.
Go, go,
No one's threatening her. We're getting her to run us and taking that t-shirt.
She's threatening us.
You're not wearing this helmet. If I get in your face.
Can you just move back a bit to give us some room, yeah? Thank you. Get her out of here. Come on, Hatum. Let's go over there. Let's Calm down. Calm down. Everyone, calm down. Calm down. Calm it down. Calm down. Calm down. Move back. Move back. We can't all go against you. Get right. Get back!
So you're doing that.
You're not wearing this helmet. If I get in your face.
Sorry?
I said, you're not wearing it because somebody would have banged you in your face.
Wearing what?
Wearing that t-shirt. Hey, what are you giggling for? Like you're just
Giggling?
Yeah, giggle.
I'm not
Hey,
Just move back a bit to give us some room, yeah? Thank you.
Get her out of
Move
here.
back. Come on, Hatum. Let's go. Come on. You can't move, right?
Hey, get back, get back.
Get more units. You can't move, right? Calm down. Calm down. Everyone, calm down. Calm down. Calm it down. Calm down. Calm down. Move back.
Take off his picture. Take it home. Take it home. Put it in your mouth. That's fine.
Well, I'm sure you heard everything that went on there. You probably didn't hear some of the threats that were coming in from the crowd. One of the fellows was saying, if he wears a t-shirt like this, we will kill you. This is something that's worthy of being killed. And then you probably heard them say, take it off, take it off. And the guy was coming right to her face saying, take it off, take it off. So it started getting pretty volatile. You can see the difficulty the police were in by this time. They were just yelling for calm. calm. The irony, the one man who they pushed away was actually one of Hatum's friends, the black fellow that is one of her bodyguards, was the one that gets pushed out, not one of the Muslims. So I'm not sure they were aware of that. They probably didn't know that the very person that was there to protect her is the one that the police got rid of. The other tall, big white fellow with the beard, he is also on her team. I'm not going to give their names because it's not important right here. What is interesting is what then happens next. And this went on back and forth for about 20 minutes. And it was difficult. Police had to call in reinforcements. There was a lot more reinforcements. The head of police, the one without the cap, you'll see him. He is the one that and finally just gives the riot act. And listen to what he says. Listen to what he is demanding of Hatum. And you can see Hatum, God bless her, she would not acquiesce at all. And she cannot, she dare not, because she knew what was going to happen if she did acquiesce. If she ever gave in and ever voluntarily left the park or took off the t-shirt, she would have lost the battle. Her whole premise was to make sure that at least this one venue, this one place on earth, remains open for freedom of speech. And I don't know if anybody else is watching this besides Christians and Muslims. I hope many of you will watch this and realize she's not just standing up for our Christian principles and also our belief in Jesus Christ. She is standing up for the need for all of us to have this freedom so that we can still promote our beliefs and still have a place, one venue that's left, so that we are able to even confront the other and, yes, offend the other. Okay, so let's see what the police say, and let's see what the reason was they finally had to arrest her.
You're in danger. You're putting us in danger.
Yeah, you are. Take her from here. Arrest her. Arrest her. No, you are not allowed to do that. You have to leave the park. Take her from here. Move. Get out.
Do you understand?
Resist him.
Come on.
Resist him.
You need to leave.
Don't resist.
Because you're one against position, now you need to get yourself out of it. Right, now you need to leave the park. Because we're asking you to, we have the power to ask you. Reasonable request of an officer to leave the park. And you say you need to leave. That's a reasonable request. And we're asking them as well. We're asking them as well. You need to go first. You understand? You need to go first. He's one of her. You can leave now. Don't argue with me. Don't argue with me. You'll be arrested. You will be arrested because you refuse to leave the bar. Excuse me, can you go away, please?
No, I'm staying with Hatum. I'm staying with Hatum.
Reasonable request from a police officer. That's the power that we have, do you understand? That's the power that we have. It's all part of legislation. Well, that's the best, that was my face. Don't tell me how to do my job. Do not tell me how to do my job. You need to leave the park now. You put yourself in this position. Now you need to stop putting us all in danger. You need to leave. Ridiculous. If this is one of your friends. Yeah? You're saying he's one of your friends? He wants to talk to you. Guys, can we just move back? We just move back away from it.
Give us a bit of space.
So you can see the police are getting desperate. And the chief of police, the one without the hat, you can see he came in, he was the one that came in on that car right at the very end, came in quickly and went right to her and said in no uncertain terms, you will leave the park. And he's saying, you will leave now in no uncertain terms. Don't argue with me, he says, or you will be arrested. And when she asked why are you arresting me? He said, it's to keep the peace. It's to keep the peace. And you can see then a few of, the police are huge in number by now. So this is almost a half an hour later. They have now completely controlled all the way around her so that no one can get to her. The police van has come in the back and they want to get her to that van. Now, some of you may be asking, well, what would you do, Mr. Smith, if you were in that situation, if you were the police? And I can understand it's a dilemma for the police. It's a damned if they do, damned if they don't. I understand that. That's not what I'm questioning. What I'm trying to get at is, why have they not thought of this beforehand? Why has this not been discussed in their own circle, since this is now the third time that this has happened. This is now the third time that they've had to come and take Hatum out of the situation and force her and arrest her. We'll get to that. Let's see what happens next, because this is how they solved their problem.
Gents, there you are. Could you get back behind the cordon for us, sir, please? Sorry. Can you go back behind the cordon for us?
The other side for us, please. Thank you. Please.
Are you going to be taking away any of the mob that caused the incident?
No, I don't really want to talk to you either.
Sorry? I said, are you going to be taking away any of the people who caused the incident? There was a small group of people, 4 people who were exposing their genitalia, using absolutely foul language and making threatening. Right.
Stop bothering the officers. Stop bothering the officers.
This is the kind of behaviour that we're talking about, this guy.
So they finally just grab her, pick her up, and haul her to the van. And you hear the Muslims clapping, and they're deriding her, and they see they have won this. And they have. This is, for them, it's a real win. Islam always, from everything that I have seen at Speaker's Corner over the years I've been there, from what I've seen on the news, whenever they get their way, they see it as a victory. And they were saying, who are you? Who are you? They're mocking her as they're taking her. Like, who are you? You're just insignificant. You're nothing. You're nobody. And see, this is what we do with nobodies. But it's more than that. Now, notice what the man who was filming that is on her team, I'm not going to give you his name either. Notice what he asked the police as they had just put her in the van. What are you going to do with these people that were showing their genitalia, that were mocking her, that were threatening her, and the ones that were actually causing the violence? This is the problem with peace. It has nothing to do with her. The problem with violence and the fact of keeping the peace has everything to do with these individuals. What are you going to do with them? And what did the police say? Nothing. Nothing. They're not the problem. Oy, 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 oy. Now, this is the difficulty that I'm seeing, and this is what we're all doing. It's not just the police. Our politicians are doing this. Our lawyers are doing this. The church is doing this. I see many Christians who are doing this. I see many Christians who have come to me and say, would you just tone down Jay? Would you just tone down Hatum? Would you just tone down David Wood and Sam Shamoon and Al Fadi and the rest of us? Would you just shut up what you're doing, because you're causing the problem? You're the ones that are causing the violence. I've been a number of years ago, I was accused of causing the violence in Nigeria by Boko Haram. How could I be accused? It's because of my videos they said that were on YouTube. This is something that we're getting all the time from many people, even other Christians. But I'm hoping you're understanding. I hope you see what happened just on Sunday, 2 days ago. Remember, what Hatum is doing is much greater than just herself. This is only a 5'2" woman. Why are the Muslims ganging up on her? Well, first of all, she's the only one that wears these shirts. Okay, that's true. She is the only one that would wear shirts. I have never worn a shirt like that, but many times when the Charlie Hebdo affair happened, I held up those cartoons. I would get up on the ladder and hold them up one by one and show how they do mock Muhammad, and Muslims got angry. Of course they got angry. But remember, she also represents something much greater than just freedom of speech. She is the one that really started this whole debate on the preservation of Scripture. She is the one that, back in 2016, held up those 26 different Qurans, which caused such an embarrassment and is still causing such an embarrassment for the whole Muslim world that Yasir Qadhi has almost lost his credibility and has been ousted and shut down by Muslims all over the world. Shabir Ali, look and see what happened to him May 19th when he said much the same thing. Great men of Islam who have built their career on holding the Quran up as the bastion of Islam are seeing that crumble just because of this one 5'2" woman dared to go and find 26 different Qurans and found 93,000 differences between them, which shut down any notion that the Quran is unchanged or that it even comes from the 7th century, let alone that it comes from God. So you can see there's much more going on here than just attacking one t-shirt. But she's also the one that also dared to bring the T-shirts down to Speaker's Corner last year in 2020. After Samuel Paty was killed on October the 16th in 2020, she took the pictures of Muhammad down there to say, what in the world is, why are you killing a man for these pictures, these cartoons? And then she reminded the people what happened back in January the 7th, 2015, when 12 people were killed in the offices of Charlie Hebdo and 11 others wounded because they dared to make these pictures. They dared to create these cartoons and put them on their covers. And she says, you know, what has happened to the ability to have opinion or speech, even if it offends? And especially at Speaker's Corner. It's Speaker's Corner, as I said at the very beginning, is the one place on earth where we should be able to show these Charlie Hebdo cartoons. I can understand that people don't want you to show them in Muslim cartes or Muslim environments. They're getting so upset about showing them in school. And you saw what happened to up north in Britain, where this one teacher has now been suspended by the superintendent because he dared to show one of these cartoons in his class on the whole subject of freedom of speech. How can you talk about freedom of speech to your students and help them understand freedom of speech if you can't show what is the one thing that inflames people and shuts down freedom of speech? What has been at the behest, what has been at the foundation of this whole discussion? How can you do that in school and really inform the next generation coming up, unless you must have the freedom to show these cartoons, including the one Hatum was showing? But I want to get back to the example that the police gave. The example of Chelsea versus Tottenham. Or the oil in the pan and the fire. Notice what he said. Chelsea, Tottenham. If a Chelsea fan comes to a Tottenham area, we must throw him out because that will cause unrest. Now, what's the Muslim hearing? And what are you hearing? And what am I hearing? Well, I'm hearing the same thing. What the police is saying is, Speaker's Corner is a place for Islam now. You cannot show these cartoons at Speaker's Corner. Which means Speaker's Corner, the one place that we are able to do that, the one venue that's left us in the world where we can say anything we want, and has been around for almost 200 years as a bastion of freedom of speech, he is now saying this is a Tottenham Corner. This is now the Muslim Corner. This is now whoever they dominate, wherever Muslims dominate, they then can claim that ground. That's the message I'm hearing. That's the message that Muslim wanted to hear. That's what he wanted to hear. He wanted it on film. He wanted to hear the police say that. And more than that, using the example of the oil that catches on fire, the fire is Islam, the oil is Hatum. Take Hatum away from the fire. Get her away from the fire. The fire, you don't do anything. You don't turn off the fire. You let the fire continue to go, is what I'm hearing. You continue to let Muslims not only claim the ground, but you penalize the very person who tries to stand up against that fire. It's the fire that does the damage, right? Then why don't you shut the fire down? Right? I would suggest you shut the fire down. But see, the police don't understand that. Most of our politicians don't understand that. And what's the irony is that Muslims only make up less than 2% of the British population. And yet they are now claiming ground wherever they want. They can pretty much say what they want, do what they want, go where they want, and also take the religion with them. And now they're taking on the last place where we are not, where we thought that we had the freedom to even confront them. That if this is Speaker's Corner goes, then all freedom of speech goes. Because then they know that all they need to do is just get enough people, get enough men, get enough people to threaten the person who dares to stand against them, who dares to confront them. Get enough people who will stand against a 5'2" girl. She's only 5'2". How can she be a threat? She dares to take on what that whole picture is about. Have you looked at that picture carefully? Let's scroll it again. Isn't that picture about the very thing that happened to her? Isn't that picture about those Muslim men who, if there had been no police and that had not been Speaker's Corner, even he said, if you do this in the Champs-Elysees, what would have happened to you? We would have killed you. And even later on, the one man said, you wear a shirt like that and you will be killed. You will be killed. Well, that's exactly what that shirt's depicting. That's exactly what Muhammad is the example of. Look and see what Muhammad did. Take a look at his biography. Look and see what he did with Asma bint Marwan. What did Asma bint Marwan do? She lived in Medina. Muhammad did not live in Medina. He came from Mecca. He moved up in Medina in 622. Take a look at the Sirah of the Siratul Rasulullah, which is the biography of Muhammad's life written by Ibn Hisham in 833, and read what happened. Almost immediately, this woman, who was a poetess, wrote poetic verse against Muhammad. Muhammad said, who's going to take care of this woman for me? That night, one of his disciples, Umayyah, goes with a knife, goes into her bedchamber where she has 6 children. One of the her youngest child was on her breast, and he takes the knife and just plunges it through her heart, kills her, comes the next morning and tells Muhammad what he's done. Muhammad turns towards Umayyah and says, great are you for what you have done for your prophet. That's the example that Muhammad gave for those who criticize him, those who write poetic verse, those who wear t-shirts that mock him. And that was done in 622, the 7th century, according to the Islamic traditions. If that is their model, then can you see this is exactly how Muslims are going to do? They are going to follow that example. That is their eternal example. That is their only model. And that's why whenever you look at Islam, you always have to put Allah again alongside Muhammad. Muhammad is always alongside Allah. And they do Shahada, the La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. There is one God, there's only one God but God. And Muhammad is his prophet, is part of the Shahada. Muhammad's always there. He is the example. He is the model. Can you then understand why Muslims will not tolerate, will not at all allow anybody to mock their model, their paradigm? And they'll do the exact same that Muhammad did. He was the example. He was the model. He did this to Asma bin Marwan. We know of 25 people that he had assassinated, and their only crime was that they mocked him. They confronted him. Hatum, what a lioness. The lioness of London, as we call her. She is doing what many of us will not do. She is standing up for the rest of us, not just for Christians, though she is. She's standing up for all of you, every one of you who's watching this. It is Hatum, that 5'2" lady, who has been living under bridges, has been walking the streets, doesn't even have a home to go back to, hasn't for the last few months, because no place is safe for Hatum right now. In Britain, not even Speaker's Corner. I want to end there because I want to end with, I went up on her site. She put up the whole 45 minutes on DCCI. And before I came on to do this film, I just wanted to look and see how people are reacting. Let me just read. I want to end with some of the things that people have been saying from what they saw. Here is Bowrudder, who says, I will never understand why the police remove the person who is not, capital letters, threatening people, and leave the people who are making threats. The protected group, i.e. the Muslims, need all those police to protect them from freedom of speech? Can you see the irony? Ramiz Aziz says this, what happened in France? Don't you guys learn it? A frank and unapologetic threat of terrorism and murder. This is a death threat. Sensen Thomas says a strange English law. You bully and the victim being bullied is arrested. Wonderful. Indodot Production says this. So police remove the frying pan from the fire. What does that do if you don't put out the fire? Exactly what I was saying earlier. Cafe Linda Clark says this. The officer said one of them was exposing himself, pulling his pants down, and threatening. And it's Hatum they are arresting? Why doesn't an officer get on the bullhorn and tell the Muslims in the park that Hatum has the right to wear that t-shirt, and if any Muslim does not like it, he can leave the park, she writes in capital letters. Cowardice, in capital letters, does not look good on British police. Nina H. What a shameless man who is able to call Hatum names, yet so cowardly afraid his face is recorded. That's the man who comes up and says, F your mother, F your mother, F your mother, over and over again. You saw that in the video. If he has freedom to curse, why does Hatum not have the freedom to wear a t-shirt? Exactly. Like with like. If you're going to do it, why aren't you allowing her to do it, for heaven's sake? Ripley asks this. The next time you hear a Muslim tell you Islam is a religion of peace, show them this video. This is the true Islam and those that follow it. E.T. says this. England police have no backbone. Try that in the States. Every Abdul acting tough would have been dealt with. It shows that they are a protected group. Freedom of speech is down the toilet. Freedom of expression is down the toilet. True embarrassing for our English cousins. Hatum has more heart than half the men in the park. She is a lioness. God bless her. Sister, keep it up. Gimin Untung says this. What a brave lady. May Jesus protect you, sister. Shekinah. writes this, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when men insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets before you." This is Matthew chapter 5, verse 12. Jesus is speaking here. Thomas A. said this, "So sad to see what Britain has come to. Stay strong, Hatum. May our Jesus Christ peace be upon you." And then Let's Be Together, A to J, pens this, "This is hard to watch. God protect you, Hatum. The light shines in the darkness. A modern day Paul, indeed. Prayers are with you." From Raymond 942, "She is the ideal Jesus preached of when he said, 'Blessed are the peacemaker.' He would be so proud." Rob Christian, good friend of Hatum's as well, "Sister Hatum, a lioness of Christ, modern day Paul." And then interesting, I'm just going to end with this one that was right there on the front page. Someone named capital L, capital C. "I am leaving Islam because this video opened my eyes." And then later on he says, "I'm considering Jesus because of you, Hatum Tash." That's a good one to end on. When you look at Islam and when you look at Christianity, when you look and see how these men are acting, when you look and see what they did, how they mocked her, how they threatened her, how they pulled their pants down to show their genitalia to her, and then how the police come and protect them and not her. And what does she represent? Well, she represents how Jesus really acted. When Jesus was spat upon, when he was hit, when he was mocked, when he was flogged, even when he was on the cross, what did he do? "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Hatum is representing Jesus. And she's doing it in the best way she knows how, because she knows that which offends will cause violence. But nonetheless, the violence is something she was willing to do. She did not want to leave the corner. She was willing to stay there and get beaten up. She has been beaten up before. She knows what it's like to get beaten up. And you're right. So did Paul in the first century. She's basically just like a modern day Paul. We've been looking for our Sauls to become Pauls. Well, she is a Saul. She used to be a Muslim, grew up as a Muslim, understands Islam intimately, so much better than the rest of us. Her father is a well-known Muslim imam there in Turkey. And she has become from Saul to Paul. What an example for the rest of us. May we have hundreds more like Hatum. And I hope the rest of you, as you watch and see how she stood up under all that barrage of threats and insults, she did not wince one. That's why, in some ways, she is such an example for the rest of us. Well, it's been a few days for Hatum, and she is going to be back again next Sunday. I understand they kept her for all night. They finally released her yesterday. She is now out, but with conditions. I'd like to see what those conditions are, and we're going to be hearing about them. But keep holding her up in prayer, and also keep holding the fact that we need to maintain freedom of speech. Really, who did break the peace there at Speaker's Corner? Surely not Hatum. Those that remained, those that were mocking her, those that were clapping as she was taken away, they think they have won the day. But the rest of you know that they have not won the day. Because you can all see this is not what we want for the West. This is not what we want for the East. This is not what we want for anywhere. If bullies could get away with this, if bullies, just by using their voice, using their numbers, to cow the police, to cow our politicians, to cow our teachers, and even to cow the church, then we have just given way to mob rule. You saw mob rule today. That's exactly what went on at Speaker's Corner. Hatum is fearless. She really is the lioness of London. God bless you. This is Jay. Over and out.